Good morning, traders. This is Wilkey with StartupTrading.com. It is 8:47 a.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday, June 24, 2020. So, looking back at yesterday's session, we had some pie in the sky trades that went off on Monday's session. So, as we played Tuesday, the traders really need to keep that up, and they did all day, but you can see they really didn't get anything. If you look at where the overnight highs are, only the NASDAQ, the champion of all champions, was able to get up and muster another all-time high. But if you look at the close, right, they all closed near the low of the session. They even printed, except for the NASDAQ, trades that went off below the bell low after the close. So underwater trades at underwater close is where it settled. And if we look at, all the value was, paid up from the previous day. So looking back at yesterday's profile in a little bit more detail for the NASDAQ and then ES, you can see that below the bell low, right, all the traders are, really trapped. And you can see what we had in the overnight session, how much farther the blue is, that's overnight here. And you can see the same thing setting up for the NASDAQ. So you can also see that, how consolidated it was between yesterday's range. So basically, anything back up over 25 for the ES really gets you about to 39.40. And then if you look at the NASDAQ, it looks a little bit sloppier coming out of the highs. You can see the point of controls at the lower end of the day, where it's at the upper end of the day for the ES. So looking at what's on schedule for today, we got the housing price index at 9 o'clock. We got crude at 10. We have then tomorrow we have unemployment, GDP, durable goods. It was a final GDP, not a first read, so take that for what it's worth. And then Thursday after the bell and after futures close the first time right before it opens for that 30 minutes, they'll release the bank stress test. I don't expect anything major out of that either. So looking at our where we've been, what we've been doing, we still have this island up here of those 4 days, right? We've been trying for, basically over a week now to try to get into this gap and fill the gap and, save the people on the island. Well, it looks like they're going to be stranded for a little while longer yet. So as we look at what's going on now, we've built quite a few days. We've got 6 trading days up here, and then the overnight session tonight that's all in this range. And that range is, basically between 30.60 and, 31, let's just call it 40.50, right in there is where all that trading action is. So points that could be tested today that haven't been, that are still on the docket are, we have 31.02 quarter and 31.32.50 there. We have this 30.56 that really hasn't been tested during the bell session, but we got so close to it and capitulated so far under its Sunday. It's still on there, but I don't put a lot of weight on it that it needs to go there. But you can see under that level, right, we get into, we got these 4 days here, 6 days here now. We got these 3 days here. We definitely get back into the range from last Monday, June 15th, if we break below that. And I think that, we could spend several days down here if it's not a, a false break, meaning you break below that line and you come back up. So with all that said, let's go back and look at the overnight action. 47.5 points is the overnight action so far. I want to really focus back on coming into the week. There was 2 draws I was really watching, and I thought it would take several sessions, if not weeks, to really let these prove out one way or another, and that we just kind of get range bound as we've been since last Tuesday in this consolidation. So basically, the short draw I'm looking at breaks over 31.57, and the long draw that I'm looking at, breaks down here under 29.74, 29.73 basically. So, but still focusing on last Tuesday's range that traded basically between 8:45 Eastern and basically 11:15 Eastern. So that 2.5 hours that traded right there, we've been, for the most part, stuck in that range ever since, right? We had a little bit below that range on Friday's quad witch. Had that gap down open on Sunday, come back up, but all this has been short-lived under that. Even that flash that we had on the previous overnight session, just flashed right down to that level basically and responded back up. So one thing I will let you know is coming out of the last night, as we were trading around yesterday, coming out of those highs from yesterday, we had a sequence that was from the high of the day, basically, and it traded from the overnight high. It traded 7 times until it hit this 81 overnight, and this 81 was pretty much the target to the tick on the last extension. That extension's broke. So as we've been in this consolidation, what we end up with is we end up, getting some short draws that work for a little while, or some long draws that work for a little while, and then they end up breaking. Well, we just broke the short draw again. So does that mean that it's back to the long draws until they break? Until we get out of this range, that's a possibility you have to really seriously consider. That it's back to the long draws until we can get out of here. So looking at all the indexes, and really what's going on here is, again, we have those underwater trades that went off, but with the Russell, the ES, and the Dow. And as we, the reason I mark these is it's basically over 75% of the time is the trend on this as I've been doing it. We're going to settle above the top of the water on these indexes when futures close today. So don't, that's also a capitulation signal. It means we need to trap a few more suckers in here. For those people that don't do the Fibonacci sequences like we do and saw that they were trading perfectly overnight, so algos traded these down. And if you look at the down movements for the ES, this down movement was only 5 minutes. This one, it was actually 11. It had 2 bursts of 5 minutes with a 1 minute between it, and this burst was 5 minutes as well. So these were definitely just algos trading it down, playing the range. And if you knew what they were doing, if you're a student of Jack's, then you were able to profit in that. But don't get too capitulated or too wound up, trying to make money to one side or the other. If algos are in here playing this range, play it with them. Again, like I said, the short draw so far is broken. So you can go back and go to previous anchors on that draw, but since we've been playing this game, it hasn't worked yet, so I don't expect it to work today. So looking at just the session overnight, what I'm really watching for, and I think this will be a trend change if it does, since we broke that sequence down this morning, I'm really watching for the sequence out of the lows to hold. If you see the sequence out of the lows break sometime today from this 3081, so basically if you just keep drawing from this 3081 too high and forget about anything else that's going on here and watch that for your biggest measure, getting under that 61.8 would be a trend change, meaning that the game of playing shorts until they break, playing longs until they break is over, and we could get a significant pop below if this uptrend doesn't hold. So for the shorts right now, coming out of the high, right, we're right around the halfway back if you let that extension break and just went to the previous high. But this is just from the overnight session. It's not from yesterday's high, which is really where the sequence started, in my opinion. Looking at the NASDAQ, same thing. It's in the house of pain right now. It's between the 38 and the line in the sand. It's where you should be getting an entry, and we'll see if it continues to the downside. Again, I'm looking for these not to hold on the short side. Same thing with the Russell. We're right back to where there should be a short entry. So looking at the ES, and what as I drone on about, this 4 days of island up here, we've got the 3 days lower, and now we've got 6 days going sideways. When this finally does break out of the range that we're in, it should be fairly explosive. Remember, this was just 4 days up, and we had that nice move down for 3 days. This is 6 days It is in the middle of this gap, but we've done so much shaking and baking, we'll see. But getting over this 32.20 will be the true test if we do end up breaking out to the upside. Otherwise, if we break to the downside, I look for us to go, right down to around, 28.80 will be my first real level down. And then if we get aggressive, since we have 6 days up here, we could see all the way down to right around 27.50 on a short burst, and look at how this down, up, down. But remember, when you have those targets down there, don't expect them to last forever. They'll be short-lived if you trade that far down. So now looking at the NASDAQ, and I really don't have any targets above. We can look for some support below to see if it breaks or holds, but we're already back above 10,160 basically. So I'm not looking for anything below that. I have 10,020 basically, and then 97.44. I don't really have too much in between here. You could add a level. I'll go ahead and throw it on here, just since there's not much in the middle here. Right around 98.35. Looking at the Russell, same thing. 4 days, 3 days, 6 days, going across. So exactly like the ES, and we'll just have to see which way this is. Don't expect this range to break, though, until it does. Looking at the Dow, same thing. 4 days, 3 days, 6 days. And then you can see for the Dow, it's significant resistance up here at this basically 26,297 I have marked, so 26,300 is the level. So above there, I think, it's just a race once you get across 26,510 up to 27,100 to start with. And breaking below, we really have a chance to get all the way back down to this box, which is going to be around 23,904 to 23,967. So looking back at all the indexes, kind of putting a wrap on this, what I'm looking for today, I'm looking for this longs to hold coming out of these overnight lows. If that long breaks, that could be the start of a move down. Remember, right around this 30.63, 30.61 half is, legitimate support down here. So seeing that broken later might get us on a couple days moving down, maybe 3 or 4 days down if we lose those levels. Otherwise, it's status quo. We're in the range and keep playing whatever draws are working until they break, and then flip until we break this range from last Tuesday. I hope this helps you guys. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.